Cough syrup, yeah man. So many people are drinking it. Everything here is down.
We've got a generation to lose if the government does not step up.
This one makes us feel better. Cheapest way to get high, $5.
Police are come after we, but we don't give a damn about them. If they come, we wanna give them $2, they go back.
The streets of Harare are full of brown cough syrup bottles, a sign of the addiction epidemic currently ravaging the country, particularly affecting young people.
I ain't got no mercy, I'm so ruthless, I'm a villain, known that, yeah, I'm a... 2016, I started drinking promptly. So per day I could take something like 4 bottles at 400 mils. I wasn't myself, I was someone else, or something else.
The cough syrup, often of the brand Bronclear, contains codeine, an opiate that can be used as a painkiller. It's relatively harmless in small doses, but can be highly addictive. Bronclear also contains alcohol, so when you drink a lot of it, it will make you feel both drunk and high. In large quantities, it can lead to respiratory problems, dangerously low blood pressure, and permanent damage to the brain, heart, and liver.
Like I did it because of my friends. They were like, if you don't do this, I won't play with you. When you start doing it, afterwards you think it's a better way of life. My mother is a widow, then she doesn't go to work. So some of the times when we get piece jobs, we have to go and get some money and bring it home to buy some food.
This is my house. I stay here with my 5 children, my mother of 5. With my son, unfortunately, we didn't pick it up because he was in boarding school. My son, he's the quiet type. We couldn't really notice a change in him until last year. You know, you'd come home, he would be on that couch, he's holding a plate in his hand, and you're speaking to him and he's not responding. That is what Bronclear does. He even went to a stage when he started taking things and selling them, maybe to buy or his Bronclear or whatever he was taking then. Yeah, a lot of things, my laptop, cell phones, even food. He even went to that extent. One time he even ran away from home. He was now staying in the streets doing these drug things.
The economy is in ruins. 90% of the population is without formal employment, and families are plagued with poverty and addiction. Back in the 1980s, Zimbabwe was prospering, but former dictator Robert Mugabe ran the country into the ground. He was ousted in November 2017, and in July 2018, the country held its first democratic election in 4 decades. But people are still feeling the consequences of Mugabe's 37-year rule. We drive to the slums of Mufakose, an impoverished area in the outskirts of the capital. Here we meet Phaeton. He works as a music producer.
Welcome to Mufakose. This is my ghetto.
But when he was younger, he lived on the streets and was addicted to Bronclear. Today, he's trying to help his friends, who are all stuck in a vicious cycle of cough syrup dependency.
This is some of my ghetto youths. They don't go to work. As you can see that's what they take. That's Bronclear.
4 years ago, the government outlawed the sale of Bronclear, but the illegal import of the cough syrup, especially from South Africa, has continued. And it's very easy to get your hands on a bottle.
Even a young child, if you ask him, what is this bottle? He or she can tell you that this is a Bronclear. Everyone is selling even on the shops there. There's a lot of people who are selling these things.
Phaeton takes us to the local marketplace to show us how cough syrup is being sold and used on the street.
Yeah, left. For the sake of these guys, maybe they don't want their place to be out. So we'll get into the bar, then someone will just come and drink, and then you see.
Soon, we're surrounded by young guys drinking Bronclear.
We do it like this.
That's how
each and every day.
The guys are already high. When you drink a lot of cough syrup every day, it can cause your teeth to rot and fall out. So to protect their teeth, they pour the liquid directly into their throats.
How long does it take until you feel
Something like 20 minutes. It's for half a day, then you need another edition. The main reason which makes us do these drugs, guys, is unemployment. You don't have things to do. You don't get stressed or get worried about a lot of things. I've been seated at home like 2 years now.
This one makes us feel better. Stress. Don't think too much when you take this. Every day, I take one bottle and I feel high and I don't think anything.
In a day, we say about $100 to $150. We make a profit of about $100, just one box. We have got some buyers, they outside South Africa. So we contact each other, we send them some money, and they bring the drugs by the bus.
Adcock Ingram, the South African company behind Bronclear, told us they are concerned with the alleged misuse of their cough syrup with codeine, and that since the product is not registered in Zimbabwe, it's illegal to export it there. They acknowledged that smuggling medicine across borders is common and told us they have internal processes in place to flag unusually high or suspicious orders. We want to understand what's being done to help young addicts. So we head to downtown Harare to meet up with Hilton Nyamukapa. He works for one of the few NGOs in Zimbabwe actively working to help addicts.
There are quite a number of reasons why the youths are actually taking drugs. The number one reason is idleness. Some of them cannot afford to go to colleges, so it's a way of coping with the stress associated with idleness.
It's hard to pinpoint the exact amount of young Zimbabweans who are addicted to Bronclear and other narcotics. The government states that no official studies have been conducted to quantify the scope of the issue. That's why various interest groups have made their own assessments. And even though the results vary a lot, one thing is certain: the number of young people living on the streets as drug users is alarmingly high.
With the information we are getting from various sources, we can say probably more than 50% of the youths in Zimbabwe are actually taking drugs.
And once you're hooked, it's hard to get help, because the only specialized rehabilitation options in Zimbabwe are privately run and unaffordable for most users. Hilton tells us how the government handles it.
If you use drugs, you are a criminal, you should be sent to jail. So as an organization, we are saying the legal system should actually have some kind of rehabilitation or treatment.
We want to ask the authorities about the lack of state-run drug rehabilitation clinics, so we drive to the Ministry of Health.
The treatment for drug dependence is only available in psychiatric institutions. By keeping them in the hospital and then giving them some like maybe diazepam to make sure that they don't take the drugs. So eventually they forget to take drugs.
Hilton Nyamukapa does not think that jail sentences and psychiatric treatment works. The NGO is pushing for the government to run rehabilitation clinics where people can receive proper result-oriented treatment.
The problem of actually putting those people in mental institutions is that kind of treatment is actually detoxifying them. It's not actual treatment, because you are detoxified today and tomorrow you're also craving for drugs. So that is not the proper treatment. We want a proper treatment where actually the drug is gradual treatment until the person recovers.
Zimbabweans pretend to be conservative and they don't want to openly talk about these things. So going forward, we've got a generation to lose if the government does not step up and Zimbabweans themselves don't step up to try and find a solution to dealing with this drug problem that is bedeviling our nation.
My way forward to leave all that was to dump all my bad friends, close myself in my bedroom. Like when I started being serious in my music, I had no time for drugs and something like that. So that's what made me lose my interest in drugs. I have 4 siblings, and like all of them, they're looking up to me. My hope for the future is to be someone better, like a source of inspiration to the youth.
Fizi Wakashe found a purpose in making music, and hence a way out. But thousands of young Zimbabweans are still in the claws of addiction. But to treat the root cause of Zimbabwe's cough syrup abuse, the lack of opportunities for the country's youth, it will take real political change that offers them future prospects.
Young chippy winning, young nigga from Zimbabwe, USA, yeah, 5 years from the line, I be coming that stage, yeah.
The world is going into lockdown, and social distancing is becoming the norm. But 1 million Japanese have been shunning society for years. For them, as time goes on, surviving at home alone is becoming harder. 101 East explores why so many young and old in Japan are socially withdrawn. Tokyo's suburban outskirts, I'm meeting 54-year-old Kenji Yamase.
Hi.
He doesn't go out much. Kenji is a hikikomori, the Japanese word for socially withdrawn people who spend their lives avoiding the outside world.
So this is your room?
これが僕の部屋で、生まれた時からこの家にも50年以上住んでるんですけど、寝てたりしてもう動けない日はずっと寝てるか、コンピューターやってるか、たまに本読んだり書き物書いたり。
All your work which you write.
The government estimates there are more than 1 million hikikomori across Japan. Most are over 40. Kenji has lived like this for half his life. He says he doesn't fit in with Japanese society.
自分がここにいていいと思えないとか、いても自分が自分らしくいられないとか、自分が今本当の自分として生きていないんじゃないかとか、自然じゃない何かやらされている役割を演じさせられている、そういう感覚ですね。
By being socially withdrawn, do you feel that you're missing out at all?
その残念だというのがないという嘘になるんですけど、それを考えなくなってからむしろ楽になってしまう。
Kenji has ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, a condition that was left undiagnosed until 5 years ago. He believes it played a role in his self-imposed isolation and left him with scars from his childhood.
小学生の時にひどいいじめがあったんで、それでもう先生まで一緒になったんで、もう社会に信用できなくなったんですよ。いじめられるお前が悪いみたいなことをその偉い先生、カウンセラーの先生に言われたりするわけですから。
The number of hikikomori has soared since the 1990s, when Japan's economy plunged into recession. At the time, Kenji dropped out of a university law degree and struggled to hold down a job.
昔はその学校終わったらば、すぐ必ず就職できて、就学場が居場所になって、地位を築いて、結婚してっていうルートがあったんだけども、一回外れてしまうと戻れないんですよ、なかなか。これまでは自分がダメなやつ、自分を責めるしかできなくて、それもあってやはり鬱になってしまって会社を辞めてしまうのを繰り返したってことですよね。
Kenji lives with his 88-year-old mother, Kazuko, who largely keeps to herself. They're typical of what Japan calls the 80-50 problem, where hikikomori, aged over 50, live with parents in their 80s.
昔は確かに働けとか言ってたんですけど、私は30歳ぐらいの時に私の昔と今の時代では時代が違うからもううるさいことは言わないって言ってくれて、それですごく楽になりましたね。理解はしてないんでしょうけど認めてはくれてるんだと思います。だから見守ってくれてるし、なんか愛情はあるっていうか感謝してますね、僕は。
Like Kenji, a third of adult hikikomori depend on their parents for financial survival, and that makes their future uncertain.
本当に年々衰えていくのが分かるんですよね。腰が曲がってくるとか。ただそれでちょっと自分自身もちょっと手伝えないでいるっていう気が、自分自身も何をしていいか分からない。
Do you ever worry about what life would be like without her?
本当に亡くなって悲しいとかっていうのもあるんですけど、それ以上に実は発達障害の部分で書類とか役所の手続きとかを本当に苦手なので、そういう現実的な問題の方が母には申し訳ないけどちょっとあります。
An hour away in Ibaraki Prefecture, Takuya Ishikawa rarely leaves this house. For 14 years, his only points of interaction were his mother Yukiko and his dog Hannah. They both died in the last 2 years. He says it's his dog he misses the most.
この世に存在する、唯一無二の親友であり、心許せる存在でしたね。彼女がいなければ、多分なんか死にたくなったんじゃないかと思いますね。
Takuya withdrew from society 37 years ago. Suffering from obsessive-compulsive disorder, he says his condition and an unloving father triggered his isolation.
具体的に傷があるわけでもないから、お前は病気に甘えてるんだみたいなことを言われて、割と父親は世間体を気にする方だったので、殴られたりとかしましたけども、それでますますちょっとひねくれてしまって。
Now he spends most days playing Japanese chess against strangers online.
あれ負けちゃった。なんで負けちゃったんだ。
None of the clocks in the house are working. Takuya says it's because time has lost all meaning to him.
ほとんど30年経ったのってもう驚きしかないですね。振り返ってみると。同じことの繰り返しだから時間の感じないのかもしれないです。
Bli latterlig fornøyd med ditt neste kjøp. Prisjakt. Samling mer enn bare prisen.
Simon and Joe both invest in stocks. Simon uses eToro to invest in stocks without.
Takuya's biggest problem is he's running out of money. From his mother's inheritance, he has $1,700 left. That means engaging with the outside world. Soon, he'll have to find a job or apply for social welfare to survive.
肩書きもない経歴もない人は何をアピールするの？なんか仕事やそういう華やかな場に出れるのかとか。やっぱり縁とかコネとか経歴とかそういうのでちょっと許されたりされなかったりっていうのはあるんじゃないですかね、日本は。
Takuya would love another canine companion, but he says his local animal shelters only let families adopt pets.
今はちょっと家 とは違って裏切らないし、すごく正直だし。
これは何ですか？
自分でチラシを作ってご近所のポストに投函しまくったんですけども、犬が大好きなもんでペットシッターになりたくて配ったんですが、全く依頼がなくて困っているところです。
Takuya tells me he wants to be filmed, so there's proof of his existence.
いい人生か悪い人生か分かんないですけども、それを記録に何らかの形で残るっていうのは見てる人の何らかのヒントにっていうか人生のヒントになればとか思いますね。それだったらもう悪いこともむしろ他の人に対しての参考になるわけだし、嬉しいことですね、むしろ。
I'm heading to Iwate, a rural prefecture on Japan's northeast coast. Parents of hikikomori tend to keep their problems behind closed doors. But I'm meeting one mother here who doesn't shy away from speaking out.
これからどんどん増えてくると思いますので、今本当に早く動かないと大変なことになるんじゃないかなと思います。
Seiko Goto regularly blogs about being the single mother of a 25-year-old hikikomori. Her son Masato has not studied or gone to work for the past 6 years. So many parents are secretive. They don't want to talk about this problem. Why are you so open?
子供がこれができないのは親の問題とか、もっとさらにもっと前の問題っていうふうに考えるところが日本の文化としてあるからじゃないかなと思うんですけど、ちょっと私におかしいと思います。本当に笑っちゃうんですけど、多分ちょっと他のお母さんたちと違う、もともと明るいんですけど、やっぱり本人と自分っていうのをすごく分けて考えれたので、別に何も恥ずかしいことをしてないし。
But when Masato first began to withdraw in his teenage years, she struggled to help him.
物食べなかったですね。食べても1日1食とかで、お風呂も入らないですし、本当に誰とも喋んなかったですよね、そういう時は。私とも喋んないですし、家族がもうダメになって、家族が崩壊してしまうっていうか、家の中真っ暗になりますし、何も楽しいことないですし、本当にもう家の中が殺伐とした感じになって、本当にまさにその通りです。大きな本当一人がそういうふうになることによって、その一つの家族が全体が壊れてしまう。
The shame hit Masato's elder brother the hardest.
本人に対してはもう本当にお前なんか死んでしまえとか、生まれてこなきゃよかったのにとか、本当にグズとかバカ野郎とか本当に言ってましたけど、でもやっぱ彼が長男が私に言った言葉でやっぱ一番衝撃的だったのは、殺してやろうかって言ったのが本当にびっくりしました。ごめんなさい、思い出すと。
はい、皆さんこんにちは。1ヶ月ぶりのこんにちはになります。
Seiko is determined to help others by bringing the problem out into the light. Every month she records a radio chat program that provides advice to hikikomori and their families.
菊池康弘さんです。よろしくお願いします。
Today's guest is Yasuhiro Kikuchi. He hires hikikomori to work at his busy grocery store.
何人かいるんですけども、もう一人のその子はすごい活躍した。
そこをなんで分かったんですか？そういうふうにしてあげたらすごく仕事するんじゃないかなって。
分かんないです。いろいろダメならこれ、ダメならこれっていうやり方なんですよ。
Masato is proud of his mother and her radio program, which breaks the stigma many hikikomori feel.
暗いイメージから少しでも明るくというか、 きこもりもただの人なので、他の人と別に何も変わらないというか。
And Masato's relationship with his mother has improved.
卵も食べないわ。
食べたよ。
美味しかったね。それはいいか。
Seiko says she's not as strict these days with her son, believing that may have been what triggered his social withdrawal.
ひどい暴言を吐いてましたね。学校に行けない子供がいるっていうのは恥ずかしいことだって私が思い込んでいたために、何としてでも学校に行ってほしいって思ってしまったんですね。私の本当にエゴだったと思います。
Masato began withdrawing from society in high school. Japan has a word for it, futoko, to describe students who refuse to attend class for more than 30 days a year. Those who leave school often find it harder to rejoin society later on, sometimes becoming hikikomori. There are 160,000 futoko children across Japan, and their numbers are growing. A rigid education system, bullying, and strict parenting are commonly blamed as triggers for their withdrawal. Japan's conformist society values obedience, and those who dare to be different are viewed with contempt. But there are new alternatives to Japan's strict schools. There are now 400 non-government schools like this one set up across the nation as a safe haven for futoko. Umi Makita runs NemoNet Free School and says 80% of children who attend these centres eventually return to the mainstream education system.
I see a lot of kids playing video games. How does that help the socially withdrawn?
やっぱり一番まずは遊ぶっていうことが大事で、これが基本の木だと思います。遊んだりだとか、ご飯食べたりだとか、みんなでニコニコワイワイいっぱいおしゃべりを、そこからやることすること、未来がつながっていく。
Umi understands futoko kids better than most. He was one himself. Now he uses his experience to help children who feel lost at school.
でもなんかすごくこうモヤモヤした部分があるんだね。
モヤモヤしてたよ。でももうモヤモヤしてない。
それすごいね。1年でもうモヤモヤしなくなってっつうのはすごいわね。
Umi thinks early intervention can prevent a lifetime of isolation.
傷を負わされてからフリースクールにつながることが多いので、人間不信だとか大人不信だとか、一番大きなのは先生不信になって子どもたちがここに来ている。フリースクールでは僕はこう先生役をするんではなくてフリースクールのスタッフとしているので、そこで違う人間関係もあるんだっていうところが、だんだん表情が豊かになってくるというか戻ってくるって言った方がいいと思うんですけども、子どもたちが自分にこう戻っていく一歩目なのかなと思います。
Okinawa Island in southern Japan is known for its laid-back nature. For one boy, it's the perfect place to escape the pressures of school and society.
This should be interesting.
Hi!
Yutaka!
Hi!
Hi, how are you?
Yutaka Nakamura is known as Yutabon on his YouTube channel. He's also a futoko who is homeschooled. The 11-year-old spends most days in this apartment with his sisters.
じゃあ YouTube 撮影してるところ見る？ Let's go! 本とか読んだり、動画撮ったり、友達とか読んでいっぱい外でもそうだし、東京とか行って対談したり。これも勉強や。だからやっぱうちでも勉強はできる。外でもできる。俺は自由。最高。
すごいです。
すごいです。
He's a bigger diva than me.
His parents clearly encourage Yutaka to be vivacious.
腕手にして。お願い。じゃあパンチ。なんで遊ばないの？あ、俺のだ。返せ返せ返せ。
Antics aside, Yutaka uses his YouTube channel to address issues like bullying and the rising number of student suicides. His videos have clocked up millions of views.
子供が死んじゃってるんですよ。学校に行きたくないのに、親がイヤイヤ言い出して、登校中に自殺してるんですよ。
How does your YouTube program help children who are struggling at school?
まあ死にたくなるぐらいなら学校なんて行かんでいいよって言ってるし、だからまあそれとかも見てで学んで親に見せたりして、俺は学校行きたくないとか自分で勇気を持って言ったらいいと思う。
Instead of attending class, Yutaka loves nothing more than fishing with his father along Okinawa's picturesque coastlines.
いろいろ YouTube 見てたらなんか釣りやってる人たちがおったから俺も釣りやりたいなって思って、やっぱ釣りしてると楽しいし、なんか魚と一緒にいるって感じがするじゃん。だからめっちゃ大好きになってやってんねんけど、また一回も釣れてる。
Yutaka became disillusioned with school after an incident when he was 8.
宿題をやめたらな、先生にやってこいって言われたけど、俺は全然やりたくないからやらんかった。やらんかったらなんか先生に次の日居残りさせられて、先生に叩かれて、叩かれた時に先生は叩いてるのに叩いてないって嘘ついて、何やねんこいつらと思って。せーの、はい。
Despite a backlash from other parents and students, Yutaka's father supports his decision to not conform to Japan's strict society.
ユタボンの人生にとってどうしてあげるのがやっぱ親として大事かなと思った時に、無理やりみんなと同じことをしろって子供を育てるよりも、自分らしく自由に生きたらいいよって、自分の幸せを生きたらいいよっていうふうにしてあげた方が本人にとってすごくいいことだと思うし、でまあ本当に時代の流れとともに人の価値観とか考え方は変わっていくものだと思ってるんで、日本のこの同調圧力ももうちょっといい加減変わった方がいいんじゃないかな。
And until that happens, Yutaka hopes that his YouTube videos will continue to help children struggling in the system to follow his lead.
俺は不登校の子たちに元気と勇気をどんどん与えていって、でそれでその子たちを絶対に幸せにして別に生きていけるよっていうことを伝えたい。 YouTube でだから発信をしている。
He's not the only one trying to reach out to Japan's outcasts. Under a bridge in Yokohama, Atsushi Watanabe is at his studio working on a new exhibition called I'm Here Project. The artist became a hikikomori in his 30s, due largely to depression and family issues.
ある意味ではその自分の家の中で父との確執で自分の部屋にしか居場所がなくなったというのも確かにあるんですけど、引きこもってる間本当にこう肉体的孤立、そして精神的な社会的な死を体験しているような精神状態だったので、居場所の喪失っていうふうに思っているんです。
Atsushi recruited 4 other hikikomori to produce these yet-to-be-completed art pieces for the exhibition. All are symbols of their troubled past. To address their trauma, they break the artworks, then put them back together. Atsushi's contribution to the show is a replica of the door to his room at home.
So what is the meaning behind the door?
これは僕のストーリーについての作品なんです。僕は仕掛け3年の引きこもりの経験があって、親も一緒に住んでいたんだけれどノックすらしてくれなかった。ずっと部屋にいたんだけれども怒りが爆発して、母のいる リビングルームの扉を足で蹴破ったんですよ。ある意味ではとても暴力的だし家庭内暴力なんだけれども、メッセージとしてドアは簡単に開けられるんだから僕が今孤立しているこの部屋になんで介入をしてこないんだっていうメッセージだったんですね。
When he smashed the door down, Atsushi discovered his mother had been reading books about Hikomori to try and help him. It was the moment that ended his isolation.
結局は、僕も痛みを感じていたけど、扉のこちら側で痛みを感じていたけれど、扉の向こう側で母もある種の痛みを感じて。
His video piece, My Wounds, Your Wounds, acknowledges his mother's pain. Together they smash a model of the family home, then glue it back together. In galleries worldwide, Atsushi hopes his art will present Hikomori in a different light.
引きこもりは悪いことをしている加害者である。働かないし、ご飯を食べて、親の金だけを蝕む悪人である。社会に生きる多くの人たちはきっとこう思っていると思っていて、彼らはきっと不器用で弱いから、だから我々社会からいなくなった。でも実はそうじゃなくて、その壁の向こう側に行ってしまうのは私かもしれないし、あなたかもしれないし。
Atsushi says it took a journey of small steps to break free from his isolation. But for many others, freedom from Japan's age of social withdrawal is still a work in progress.